welcome to the second episode of The Dark and Twisted. I'm your host, Tori, and to my right we have
Sakaya.
To my left,
Ariana.
And in last episode, our topic was the Queen Mary and the Lady in White. Well, if you stay tuned and you watch to the end of that video, we are talking about the Salem Witch Trials today. It has a pretty weird history, I guess you could say. It's kind of, there's a lot of history that is unspoken and unknown. I don't know, it's weird. But before we get started, we are going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Warehouse Creations. Looking for unique and captivating pottery or home decor? Look no further than Warehouse Creations. This husband and wife team of potters, Bill and Jenny Ware, create a stunning body of work that blends traditional perfection with the weird and wonky. Their complementary styles create a visually interesting and captivating collection that engages the viewers and evokes a sense of emotion. Whether you're looking for a functional piece, a statement piece, or just something to complement your existing decor, Warehouse Creation has you covered. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to see their latest creations and let them fill your pottery or home decor needs today. Thank you to Warehouse Creations for sponsoring us. Now, on to what we are actually here for. The Salem Witch Trials. What do we know about the Salem Witch Trials?
They were hanged. So sadly, because women couldn't do certain things, you know? So when a woman did something that was crazy, she was a witch. She was hanged.
Yeah, it was pretty much like you do something weird and crazy, or you disobey your husband or something, you're a witch. Or
go against the church.
Some stuff was like, if you get sick, like a certain kind of sickness or something, you're a witch. Or somebody that you don't like gets sick, or an animal dies, you did witchcraft and you're a witch. It's crazy.
Yeah. The 17th century was very...
The Puritans were crazy back then.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, most definitely. There's a... Social media, and Nini was talking about this earlier, or Ariana. Is it Ariana or Ariana? Ariana. She was talking about it earlier, and she was basically just said, like, social media has twisted it so much, like, how the trials went down, what actually happened, the history of everything. Like, they've turned it into TV shows. There's books about it. There's just a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily get straight right away because you've heard so much from it, from the media. But, so we can get the facts out there and the real truth, I'm going to read you guys a quick history, and we also have a fun fact included with it. All right. The Salem Witch Trials was a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. In January 1692, Elizabeth Parris, age 9, and Abigail Williams, age 11, the daughter and niece of Samuel Parris, began having fits, including violent contortions and uncontrollable outbursts of screaming. After local doctor William Griggs diagnosed bewitchment, other young girls in the community began to exhibit similar symptoms. In late February, arrest warrants were issued for the Parris Caribbean slaves, Tituba, along with two other women, the homeless beggar Sarah Good and the poor elderly Sarah Osborne, whom the girls accused of bewitching them. Though Good and Osborne denied their guilt, Tituba confessed, likely seeking to save herself from certain convictions by acting as an informer. She claimed there were other witches acting alongside her in service of the devil against the Puritans.
I told you those Puritans were crazy back then.
But here's the fun fact. In an effort to scientifically explain the bewitchment, a Salem resident did a study published in Science magazine in 1976, cited a fungus, ergot, was found in rye, wheat, and other cereals that can cause delusions, vomiting, and muscle spasms. So they found some kind of, what's it called?
Fungus.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, what if it was a illness or a virus going around, and it's like they don't have the medical needs for that like we do today. And it's a sickness, but everybody's like, oh, we don't really know what this is. This is odd. It's witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Have you guys ever heard of
Mass hysteria? Yes.
Yeah.
Like whenever everybody was buying all the toilet paper during COVID.
Or one of my favorite examples is there was a village in Tanzania that one girl started like laughing hysterically one day, and the whole village started laughing for like 6 months, and people were like dying from exhaustion and lack of oxygen. Or the dancing plague of 16 something something.
Oh, I have heard of that.
What's that one? LMFAO, their music party rockers.
oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's like mob mentality but on steroids.
I think that's what's that.
That
that's
happened
what's
at-
That is what that is from, because it's like in the music video, it's like the dance or the song is contagious, and they're just everybody's dancing to it.
And
So-
that's another thing. One of the facts, like, she just kind of proved a point. And when I was reading the history, it talked about how once the two girls got it, Abigail and Elizabeth, once they got it, other girls around the town also claimed that they were bewitched.
Yeah.
But another thing is a lot of studies, like, since they found that out, like, since they found that it was a fungus or whatever, and what was her name? Tituba? How are you going to claim that there's other witches that are helping you put evil curses on little kids?
At that point, it was either she tells who else is doing witchcraft, or like she tells who's actually doing it, or she dies. Either way, she's gonna die.
So she did it like a self-defense
Yeah,
thing.
because actually, I think the two girls were sisters, and their father was a pastor or preacher or whatever, and the slave was their house slave, and one of Sarah's,
One of them got sick, didn't she?
yeah, one of them was really, really sick.
And she was the
But-
one that like helped out with her the most.
Yeah, Sarah was like a family friend, and they were her husband was cheating. It was a lot, but they picked. Most people were doing it out of revenge. Like they would pick, like, okay, say Tituba got them in trouble or something, so they automatically said her name to like get rid of her, and it was husbands that were cheating on their wives. And so the wives claimed the mistress was a witch, so they would get killed. It was really like people just trying to eliminate each other because they didn't like them.
And then I feel like Tituba, because she was a slave, she knew that her chance of being taken seriously or
Yeah.
And it's like
being protected.
either way it went, like if somebody said you're a witch,
You were a witch. You could
like-
not like.
Hold on, wait. I just want to say something. Can we talk about how we asked Malachi to be in the podcast earlier and he said no, but now he's technically involved in the podcast?
get out, go away. Like, what are you doing?
If you I think
You
you
gotta-
should
you
come.
gotta
I think
stay
you should come join
regardless.
us.
But also
Okay,
in
yeah.
the Crucible, Elizabeth is like 19 and
Okay,
having an
I'm
affair
not
with-
talking about the ages or anything like that. I'm saying how she convinced all the little
story
girls.
is real.
I'm saying-
basically. The information is real.
You mean the facts behind it? Because technically the storyline isn't real if she's 19 and having an affair with.
Okay, I'm not even talking about the affair or nothing like that. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do
But
with
that was the
that.
main driving
About
point
the-
in the Crucible.
Okay, but I'm saying, can I get to the point?
Okay.
Like, you know how like all the little girls who were there too, and that they ended up like going in and like they started being like they were possessed, and they started saying like this and that, like they were, you know, like the other girl, the first girl who said that she was like possessed by the devil and she had, you know, someone had did witchcraft on her or whatever. Like they all went along with it, and it wasn't like they were just doing that to do it. They like all really thought that they were possessed.
And actually, okay, you know how the story is like they were all singing and dancing and doing all that stuff in the woods, and like how you said it was a fungus. What if that was really it? Like, I mean, I know some.
Are you saying they took
Some-
the fungus like a drug?
No. Like they were in the woods, like naked, dancing and doing a whole bunch of stuff. Like,
is that confirmed or is that from the Crucible?
you're not understanding what I'm saying.
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Because they said
It's
that
in
was
the Crucible, but
Okay.
I'm saying like
what if that was what they were doing?
okay.
What if that was extreme fact?
Yeah, like, what if it's like you're playing in the woods naked and doing all this stuff, messing with animals, cutting frogs and stuff like that? They say it's a fungus. That's how all this witchcraft could have came about. Like, this is why y'all are sick. But they didn't tell, like, nobody knows but a house
I
worker.
get what you're saying. So it's like they went to go play outside or something.
Yeah.
And they were
like that's how all the females got sick. That's why it's like barely
like all the little girls.
Yeah. But at that point, then once they actually start getting sick, because one of like Elizabeth, she was really sick, and they're blaming it on witchcraft. But then afterwards, it's like everybody else is just, oh, you're messing with my wife, you're a witch, like stuff like that. Then it became, oh, I'm just mad at you and I want you to get killed, type stuff.
What do you think about that, Malachi?
You can't touch it.
I'm sorry. It was a combination of mass hysteria and lying women and drugs, probably.
Whoa,
And
whoa,
men.
and men.
And men, sorry, yeah, too.
Don't do that.
Sorry.
But yeah, I agree with that because I feel like a lot of people, especially in that time, were very blinded by
Hate, religion,
yeah,
racism,
drugs. Yeah, I think more
well, if
accidental
you think about it,
drugs.
technically the fungus is a drug.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think they were purposely taking the fungus. It was more like they were just.
But it was
Hallucinogens.
but it was still technically involved. So technically
They were in it.
They were under the influence.
Yeah, but they didn't know. That's probably why that's also I feel like has a big part of it, because if you don't know that you're taking a substance that's gonna make you trip out and you start tripping out, you're gonna think that something is really happening.
But
No, yeah.
My only issue with the ergot theory is that you're supposed to have diarrhea and vomiting before you start hallucinating. But I
keep
could
in
be wrong.
mind, this
They
is
were really
very,
sick.
like 50 years ago. So
It was what?
50 years ago.
years ago.
Like
50
400 years ago.
Whatever.
Girl, it's
haven't-
it's a
in
2000s.
my research, in my research of the Salem Witch Trials, I haven't heard any symptoms of vomiting or diarrhea.
No,
And
but it did say like body distortions, and it did say muscle spasms.
I thought
is
that-
part of the
But
thing.
y'all gotta realize they don't have doctors like we have doctors.
bro, I'm
today.
pretty sure you don't need a doctor to diagnose diarrhea though.
They probably don't even know what the hell they probably don't even know what diarrhea is at
If
the time.
if you're in your bed and you know the sheets are brown because you can't control yourself, I think you would recognize, hey, I don't usually do that. And
Okay,
you
but
report
also-
that.
You're so right. You
But
yeah,
wait,
you're right.
but think about it. A lot of it, like, it's a symptom, but it's not technically. Because if you think about it now, like if we're sick,
Mhm.
like the symptoms of flu is like you have a fever, or like with strep, you have a fever, your throat hurts. But we don't always get fevers and stuff like that. So maybe they didn't have technically all the symptoms, because sometimes when you're sick, you don't have all the symptoms. You just have minor symptoms. If you think about it that way.
Some
I
people
feel
get
like if
sick
they
in
were,
different
I
ways.
feel like if they were having the muscle spasms and the hallucinations, they would have.
I mean, not necessarily.
They thought they were being possessed. Who's going to go to the doctor?
All of the people that were affected by it would have just skipped over the diarrhea.
You've read every
don't-
single report of people who
Like you
had, like,
said,
how do you
it
know
was-
that they didn't,
That
some of them
is-
didn't have diarrhea?
It was
We don't know
over.
that if they did or if they didn't, but you can't mark off that being a possibility just because
I'm
you
just saying
haven't
that's my
seen
issue.
only diarrhea at that.
My thing is, it was over 100 years
400 years.
ago. Over 100 years ago.
Okay.
And they don't have the medical use that we have now. They don't have doctors like we have.
Mhm.
They don't, it's just take like poop or whatever. They don't know what diarrhea is. Like,
To be fair, their terms were probably already messed up back then.
Wait.
like it's so much other stuff that happened
So here's
that
the thing.
wasn't just witchcraft.
I don't feel
But
like that.
so here's the thing. Modern medicine back then wasn't, great, but they weren't stupid. They would understand that, like, that's not normal.
And that's why.
Okay, but these are the
You're
same
not
people who
understanding
were
what I'm saying.
cutting each other up to
Yeah,
let
I'm not
blood,
saying
like,
they had full understanding of human anatomy and how the body works. But if somebody's randomly vomiting
They
and
thought-
having contortions, they would have written that down. They're having vomiting as a symptom. That's not like
Okay,
a new,
but I'm just saying, like,
you don't need a microscope and a stethoscope to know if somebody's vomiting.
but I'm just saying, you don't know that they weren't vomiting or having diarrhea.
I'm just saying they're saying
Your
this-
research isn't every single person who was, you know, they said that was, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like possessed or whatever. Or the people who were having the contortions and this and that. Like, you don't know for sure.
I'm saying if they were, so Victoria said that some doctors think that ergot has something to do with it. I'm saying I know that vomiting, diarrhea are symptoms of ergot, just like contortions and hallucinations are. I feel like if it was ergot that contributed to that, doctors that were examining the people that were having contortions and hallucinations would have written down their vomiting too if it was ergot.
But at the same time, they're probably, I don't even think it's necessarily because of the symptoms, because of vomiting and this and that. I think it's because the way that they ate.
I have a question. So, not to cut you off, but what if like that was like an earlier symptom and they just thought like, oh, they're sick, like they have like the stomach bug or something like that, and then like the rest of it came on later on, you know, instead of it just all happening at once.
So I'm not an expert on ergot. I don't know how long it takes to affect you, but to my understanding, I feel like even though they were not the best doctors back then, they still would have written that down. Because that's not, I understand that they're unhealthy back then and they weren't the smartest. But as a human, if you recognize that somebody's vomiting, you know that that's not normal.
How do you know that they didn't write that down? How do you know that they didn't do that?
Because in all the things I've read and heard about and watched about the Salem Witch Trials, vomiting and diarrhea is never something that they've, you know.
But I feel like it's not even because of those symptoms that they're saying that, or that it makes it less likely to be true. I think it makes more sense regardless of the throwing up and the diarrhea because of the whole entire how you get it, how you take it into your body.
But I'm gonna put this in how I'm seeing this. She said earlier like that the little girls got it from possibly like playing outside, like the grass touching them or something like that. What if it's the dosage of the fungus?
But see, that's not how ergot
Like,
works, though.
But that wouldn't make sense if it's just like, think of it like if you got like a shot or something. If you got like, they give you the actual sickness to help your immune system build up and fight against it. What if it's kind of like that?
There's no way it's that small of amount because like whenever you get flu shots, it's still a little like it's.
So
when you're eating something that has something in it, there's no way it's barely gonna have anything in it. If you're eating a lot of it,
But what if you're not eating it? Like she said, like you could just be.
That's
So
not how.
okay.
That's not how it works.
So ergot works by bad wheat and rye that has gone bad and is baked. Baking it activates it. You're not gonna brush it. It's not. It doesn't come in contact.
Around this time, but listen, around this time, they had farms.
Mm-hmm.
So half of their stuff is being planted, and they have animals. So
Wouldn't
the
the animals
animals
be
are
sick?
eating that, and they're
No,
eating the
that's
animals.
more
when
of
it
like
gets baked, when
yeah.
it's cooked, it activates the fungus.
Oh.
It's not just like in the
That's
field.
what I'm saying.
Debunked.
Like, they're okay. They had pigs because yes, they had pigs at that time. So the pigs are eating that fungus.
They would have been eating
They're-
corn instead.
Well, hold on. But look at it this way, because you know how some farmers, like if there was like leftover food that didn't get eaten or anything like that, they would feed it to the pigs.
Well,
But
also,
you
you
have
have
What
to
if
think
they ate it
pigs,
like that?
pigs and humans are very different.
No, actually,
You have to
they're pretty
realize
similar.
pigs are
well.
outside, like they're in the grass all day, every day. So it's like they couldn't be. I mean, they probably aren't feeding them that. They're probably just eating that, and it's like wild pigs. Like these people are
Where do they
old,
get
so
bread
they're probably
from?
just grabbing
Where do the
wild
wild
pigs.
pigs get
So
the bread from?
you can only get ergot
From the
from
bread.
eating
The baked
bad
bread.
the bad wheat that's been cooked. You can't get it from just eating raw wheat.
Or being
I'm sure
around
it would mess you up, but you're not gonna get the full symptoms from like brushing up against it because it doesn't.
It's not like a come in contact.
It's not a
type
come in
of thing.
contact type thing. It's an ingestion.
But technically your skin absorbs.
It's
But
not
that's
gonna.
not
If
the
I'm
same
brushing up against
effect.
it like that,
That's like-
I'm not gonna get the same symptoms as me
Y'all
actually
literally
eating a
just
whole
said
loaf.
some of these people feed their
Either what?
They just said that people feed their animals leftovers.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Not-
Leftover.
They're not. Nobody's gonna throw a pig.
You don't know
You
You
that.
don't know that. Though.
Pigs eat.
You don't do that. They probably don't do that now, but over 400
I
years
feel like it'd be
ago.
more likely for someone to do
400
that
years
now
ago,
than then.
if okay, so look, the Puritans back then had a lot going on. They were on new land. A lot of them were sick just in general because of poor hygiene back then. But they were also getting attacked and raided by Native Americans a lot. Wasting bread would have got you executed back then. You wouldn't feed bread to a pig because you need that. You're starving yourself. Why would you give that to an animal? There wouldn't be leftovers.
Because you're going to eat that. You want your pig to be
They-
well fed because you're going to eat
I would
that
just
eventually.
give my pig. I would just give my pig slop and corn, not food for humans that humans need to eat when I'm already struggling. When I don't know if the tribe next door is gonna come over and take all the food tomorrow. I wouldn't just give half a loaf of bread that I could
Technically,
eat.
you already took all their food.
Okay, yeah, but from a Puritan standpoint, it's your land, and
Yeah. But, like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to eat bad bread.
They
don't know it's
So this
bad.
was a common occurrence, especially back then. It's well documented in the medieval Europe because they kept better record of things back then. But it was very, very common for people to not be paying attention and let the fungus get on the wheat. And people don't pay attention to stuff like that back then. They're not going to look at the wheat with the black spot on it and be like, okay, that's not good. They don't want to waste the wheat. So they're just going to chop it up, cook it, and eat it and disperse it.
they didn't have FDA back then.
Exactly. So I'm saying if the Puritans not worried about or worried about other things, then this little piece of wheat that doesn't look quite right and they need more
It's
wheat
probably
to feed
a
people.
lot more wheat than just a couple pieces of wheat with the fungus on. It's probably like a lot.
I
They're
don't so
not.
like I said, I'm not a total expert on ergot. I don't know exactly how it, spreads, how long it takes to take effect. I know it has to be cooked to be ingested, or it has to be ingested and cooked for it to take effect. And the symptoms are diarrhea, vomiting, convulsions, hallucinations,
Hallucinations.
and I think death, but not so much anymore.
Yeah. But either way,
I'm looking this up real quick. What was I saying? How long does it? No. Dang it. Hey Siri. How long does it take ergot to come into effect?
our series a man.
Yeah, and what about it?
Does he have a cute voice?
That's not what I wanted. Y'all keep conversing.
Okay, but yeah, I think it's a very likely chance that that's probably what had happened. What explains why people were getting sick in the first place.
I think what it was is, so the woods back then were seen as like devilish.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think it was is the little girls are playing in the woods with their slave, hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And their pappy finds out. He's a pastor. He's gonna feel way stronger about them doing devilish activities than other people would.
Mm-hmm.
So
In order to get out.
in
of
order to
it.
get out of it, they start acting like
Yeah.
there's something wrong with them. Now they've made this big lie,
And then
now
it
they're
spreads
gonna lie,
around.
and then it spreads around. And because there's Puritans are so religiously,
They believe it.
they believe it, and it causes mass hysteria,
Yeah.
causing people to be, they're a witch, she's a witch, he's a witch.
But the only thing about that is that, actually, I'm not even going to say that because that was in the Crucible. And I don't know if it's completely true or not. I would have to look at my notes. But
Okay.
from what I think, I'm pretty sure people were, getting, sick, though. They were still, sick.
So
Like high fevers,
Yeah.
sweating.
when
all
I
that
looked
stuff.
at it, it says symptoms may begin within an hour. They can last about a week and get worse if you eat more of the grain that contains the fungus.
So here's my thing about that is this is multiple people.
I mean, not all
but
people.
that also kind of explains the girls, because what if the girls were sick and like I said earlier, oh, they were sick, maybe they had like the stomach bug or something, but as it progresses, the hallucinations and the like body spasms, the contortions that they were having could be part of that sickness.
But also, like, with all of the cases of it, no, I don't feel like everybody, had to be sick in order. Because some people could have just been lying, just, like, straight up lying.
And that's what I think
sick.
it was. It was a combination of people getting scared and not wanting to be the blame put on them. So they're putting it off on other people.
But it could be a mixture of things. It could be that and that, It could have started off as one thing, and then, like, as the years go on, people just start, everybody's a witch. You did something I don't like, you're a witch.
And then I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, after Abigail and Elizabeth stopped having the convulsions and hallucinations, I don't think nobody else had those symptoms. I think it was just finger pointing from that point on.
It was.
So you're
It was
saying that they
more-
could have dramatized it?
It was like,
Yeah.
okay, in those times they had like slaves and maids and like other people in the house that weren't family. And if you watch the movie or anything, it's like one of the girls turned and were like, I'm telling that we're all faking it. And then when they go to the courts, it's like she's trying to tell the people that, oh, we were faking it, like, we're sorry and all this stuff. And then all the girls turn on her and are just like, they just boom, automatically, all of them start feeling stuff and having aches and literally, like, turning and screaming and doing all the flips on the floor and everything. And they're like, I think it was Abigail, they're like, Abigail, stop it and all this stuff. She's in my mind and stuff like that. So it's like, some of it was being faked.
Yeah.
But
Was it documented that they all turned on her like that?
I mean, in the Crucible.
Okay,
See,
but
here's
that's
my
a
thing,
movie.
though. That's
that
like-
was
Yeah.
I was like,
That's
that was in
that's
the book.
a
That was
written
in the movie.
script.
But, I mean, to be fair, it probably was a lot of cases like that. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
like,
sure. It
not
was,
necessarily
Someone
girls
gets
but I don't
on
think
your
it's.
bad
I don't think it's
side, then-
official that one of the girls were like, "You guys like trying to tell the courts that they're lying."
yeah.
I think that was dramatized for the play.
My thing is I can get like the two, like Elizabeth and Abigail, like I can get them, but like the rest of the others, like you said, like it could have been fear or just like wanting attention. Like, oh, their daughter's acting. Look at how much attention that family's getting. Hey, you act this way so that then we get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I think there's also a lot of stuff that could have went into it.
I don't know about that attention part. You got to be. They probably did have her.
They was crazy, bro.
I mean, yeah, but also, I don't know if it's more.
Let's accuse our
of,
friends of being witches and get them hanged.
yeah, let's
I'm
get
gonna
them
get
hanged for
all the likes on
attention.
Instagram for that one.
You didn't even have Instagram. You couldn't even get like
Instagram.
famous for real for that. You were just doing that to be weird.
But I mean, that's how the world is. Like, people do stuff randomly for no reason, just to be.
And to think,
Important
situations
for a
have all
bit.
been fixed.
If their family, like if they would have done that, then it would have been documented in history, So it's like, oh, like
A
our
lot
names,
of
our
things
names,
aren't documented.
our names
though.
will live down in
But see,
history.
here the thing is, so
Like, theirs were.
after,
Yeah,
so
the Paris
that's why
family.
I'm saying that's what my issue with the Ergot theory is. I feel like that would have been something well documented because
Multiple
European-
families would have
so-
had it.
Mm.
the Europeans and Arabs were really, really good at documenting history.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of our world history comes from Europe and Asia because they were really good at keeping history, unlike the Africans and the Native Americans. So, especially after people first started coming here, they started documenting everything. Everything,
Such a loud snap. I'm
everything
sorry.
would have been documented. So, they wouldn't leave out little details like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're thinking,
Even if it was just like hearsay or whatever, they
Yeah.
would have said.
well, it's also like if multiple young girls are having the same like sickness or reaction and they're being bewitched, you would think maybe at some point that it wasn't. Because if like witches or anything like they are in TV shows, then they get tired real easily after using their powers,
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, you wouldn't think like, oh, it's like these people are no, like it would have to be
that's-
something more than that.
That's another thing though, like witchcraft,
Yeah,
like
40, 30
actual
minutes.
like witchcraft and
What's the actual time? She's dyslexic for a second. Well, what's the time?
But you actually got to remember,
We
like,
paused a lot.
a lot of, you say a lot of stuff was documented, but it really wasn't. Like, everybody doesn't know who died. Like, we watched, after that, we ended up watching this research where people are looking for graves. They never documented any grave, like, where they're buried. These witches, they never, like, they probably said, oh, we hung them around this area, but none of the graves, like, they're unmarked graves. None of that stuff was, like, documented.
A lot of the witches too, especially towards the height of the trials, would be, you've been accused of being a witch, so we're gonna see if you can prove it. Let's tie you up in a bag and throw you in the lake, and if you float, you're a witch. If you don't, you're not. So
And everybody sunk.
Everybody sunk, so there's not gonna be a grave. If they hang them, if they are being hung, they are already assumed to be a witch. They're not going to give them a proper Christian burial. They're going to throw their body into the
Wasn't
woods.
If you're being
wasn't it
burnt,
also a thing where it's like burned at the stake?
But
and you're
no,
like-
they did
I think
bury
only
them.
one. No, they never burned anybody over here in the United States.
Yeah,
they burned
that's
witches
sad.
over in Europe.
That's another thing. Like, people like to say that, like, people were burnt in the Salem
That's
Witch
'cause-
Trials, and it's not
That's
true.
because a lot of misconception. Because there was like
History's got crossed, basically.
there's a lot of there was a lot of witch trials in Europe at the same time.
But what
where
I was-
people actually did get burned.
What I was saying, there's like so many things about the Salem Witch Trial that like in pop culture is so much different than how it would really be. Even if they were actual witches,
That's
it'd be
'cause-
completely
So
different.
I feel like the witch trials are dramatized and misconstrued a lot because it's such an easy story to dramatize like that. Because it obviously I don't believe in witches and stuff like that. But the story on itself, if there's no further happenings going on with it, is already a crazy story in the first place.
Yeah.
So it would be really easy to turn it into something that is not, as a writer or as somebody that's just crazy and making
And
up
people
stories.
do a lot of times, like even in like children's like TV shows or movies, you see like little subtle hints from like Salem Witch Trials, like and Paranorman.
Yeah.
Whenever he meets the little witch girl who was killed by. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, I could understand why they wouldn't mark the graves, just because, one, they were female, and I'm not trying to sound like sexist or anything, but there was a lot of like hatred thrown out there towards the female population, and they were also accused of bewitchment. So
They wouldn't give witches graves. They would give
Yeah.
women graves, especially if they're married, but they would never give a witch.
but
grave.
since but the female part doesn't help out with the
Yeah.
witch part.
I feel like it wouldn't matter either way. Once
But
you're
I
a
mean,
witch,
it was male too. Like,
yeah, and I'm pretty sure they didn't like. I don't.
it
Think
was
they got
female,
graves either.
male, and children.
it was mainly women that
Yeah.
were persecuted.
Yeah.
I think it was
There
only
was
like,
very few men.
I think there was only like a handful of men.
Yeah, there
Like
was
the
like.
old guy.
That's another thing though. Like you'd think that there was way more people killed in the Salem Witch
There was
Trials than
only
they
like
were.
20-something.
Yeah, there's not a lot, but there like a good bit of them were women. I think I want to say less than 5, maybe a little bit over 5. women.
I could be wrong. I could have swore it was only like 3. I think it was like a man named John, or the old dude, and then somebody else that was like drowned.
I think there might have been like
I think it was like 2 old dudes and then a dude that was like 30-something.
there was not a lot of guys, but it's crazy though. I just because again like.
Because there's so much undocumented history there where it makes you question, like,
I mean, I
What
think it's
really-
pretty obvious, like just blatantly obvious, like what was happening. There was no witches.
well,
I
back
feel like
in,
we have a lot of issue looking at the Salem Witch Trials because it's for so long it was just assumed that there was truly witches there.
Yeah.
That in the back of people's minds they think, okay, so what if it was something? And it's hard for them to look at the reality of it, regardless of what the true issue with it was. It's not.
Yeah, no.
Whatever
And
the
even
truth is,
if
it's not as bad as it is.
these women did practice witchcraft, all of their ways of like trying to figure out if they were witches or not wasn't gonna work, because if you like talk to people who like are alive today and practice witchcraft, they're not witches, they're just everyday normal human beings who
You ever seen that-
practice
you ever seen that one
witchcraft.
dude that's from Africa and he's got family in Africa, and he was like, I hate dating girls that think that they're witches because they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you ain't never cut up a goat before. You're vegetarian. And I thought that made me laugh because like true witches from Africa get down. They like
And that's another thing.
Kill
All of
children.
these white women or Puritans from. Excuse me.
Buzzwords there.
Buzzwords, white women. They're white women. Okay, let's be real. These specific type of women in that day and age, you think they know how to cast up some spells? No. You think they really?
Maybe
can?
I would say so.
That's why I understand Tituba.
So Tituba, especially in the Caribbean, they practice a lot of hoodoo voodoo.
Yes.
So, or
That makes
even
sense.
not practicing. You know, we're talking about Puritans here.
They're not
Like kissing your wife in public was actually illegal. So she could have just been frying chicken for all we know. And
No, for real.
And they went and ran with it.
They were probably up in the woods dancing. Yeah,
And
fully
then
clothed, but just dancing,
So
listening to
to
music.
an old English, or I guess that'd be Middle English. To a Middle English speaker, a Haitian accent sounds like
You're
gibberish.
the devil.
I can't do a Haitian accent, but like
I can't either. But still, that's what I'm saying though.
that's
Like,
even now I can understand a little patois, but when other people listen to it and they don't, that's a whole different language to them. So she probably already seemed weird and off for her habits and the way she spoke, but them playing in the woods or doing whatever in the woods with a strange
black
person,
lady.
yeah, I feel like that.
Okay, no,
contributes to
yeah, I
unnecessary.
get that. I understand that. That makes sense, though.
There's a lot of just things that kind of I feel like feed into it and just made it.
It was a series of
Also,
Everybody just kept
if you think
throwing
about
gasoline
it,
on the fire.
in the 17th and 18th centuries, husbands could send their wives off to like get help or whatever because they had a period.
That's not funny, but like, that's such
I
an
mean,
extreme reaction.
But think about it that way. Like
Women are very complicated.
like at this point,
beings.
just send them away for cooking you food because if that's what we're gonna, because
Nah, so
women
I'm
could
just
get.
saying, nowadays some of y'all do need to go places.
You're ready to get kicked off the podcast. You can't be misogynistic on
I'm
this
not being
podcast.
misogynistic. I'm pointing out facts. You need to get.
This is
sent
going
away.
on the internet.
Yeah, this
We'll
is
take
going.
this part out.
Okay, we're
just
probably
wanted
about
to
to
say
have to.
But no, yeah, okay. So
Yeah, we leave in like 10 minutes.
if you have any questions or you're curious, we're also still kind of stuck. But if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to leave a like. If you have any questions, make sure to comment them down below, and we will.
Comments are turned off.
They are.
Don't comment down below. Never mind.
can't comment
How are they
down
supposed
below.
to have questions?
I don't know.
Anyways,
That's not my business. I'm not in
They
charge.
don't ask
Anyways.
questions.
You just sit here and
We
listen
just
to us.
yeah,
and
you
that's
just
it.
sit here and listen.
You sit here and take it. That's
But
all-
make
that's all you
sure
do.
make sure to come and view our next podcast, and we will see you guys later.
Hasta luego.